Hello, greetings, as they say, and welcome to another episode of What You Need is a Damn Good Listening To with me, Chris Grimes, which, as somebody rather wittily pointed out, that's not a very catchy acronym, the YWIG deal. You'll get my point. So I'm now going with a GLT with me CG, which, as we know, is going to morph into a G and T with me CG. But anyway, it's my pleasure to invite to the clearing, more about that in a moment, a man that I've known since 2010, a beautiful man called Mr. Paul Mabberley. You can see how beautiful he is himself. And if I may say, Paul, you know, we have working voices in common, and that's the context in which I met you. And not just to blow smoke at you, I think you are one of the clearest and one of the best facilitators I've experienced. So big ups to you for that. So
I'll take that smoke. Thank you.
Take the smoke and
very kind.
Blow some out there. So yes, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the clearing. How's your day going so far?
My day is going tickety-boo. I've just come off a session. Are we allowed to name clients? I just came off a session with 197 people from all around the world dialed in, and had a jolly good talk about resilience and how we can strengthen resilience. And it was really good. It was really lovely how people came into depth, and I was energized, and I'm now sort of buzzing still. So it's going well so far. And I've spent some time with the kids and the wife, and the sun is shining. So it's all good.
What an enigmatic start. And gosh, it's only 5 to 11 in the morning. That's a man on fire right there. And I think I'm doing my own version of exactly the same context of talk tomorrow for the same, shall we say, client.
You are.
Yes. And that's an interesting thing about the New World Order, isn't it? We've all gone online, and then suddenly we've got a big Muppet gallery of up to 200 people. Not that I'm calling clients Muppets, obviously.
No, but there's a smorgasbord of images, isn't there? And it's exciting. I had people in from India and Singapore and Italy and Essex and everywhere. So it's good.
Lovely. And have you heard the joke about what's the collective noun for a bunch of people on Zoom? Sats-Zoomers. Anyway, this isn't about my jokes. It's about you, Mr. Paul Mabberley Mabster, or the Mabberley Mobster, as I like to call you. The clearing, first of all, we're going to explore some storytelling archetypes during the course of this journey. The clearing is the creative space, first of all, where we're going to get you to get on the open road of, I suppose, flying your kite, telling your story, and ultimately amplifying, your brand. Who is it, and what is it that Paul Mabberley likes to bring? So what would a clearing be like for you, Paul? Where do you go to get clutter-free and inspirational?
I think that's so. There's probably two answers to that question, and I'm taking some liberties. But the first, I would say, basically outside in nature.
Yeah.
And where it works really well for me, I found it particularly more in lockdown than any other time, is either out on my bike on a long distance hilly ride or out running. I just find it's interesting because I find that the elastic band ball of my brain just starts to open up, and I didn't even realize it needed to open up. And I just kind of go, I can think, I can just process. And so in part it's that. It's always in nature, but then sometimes exercise is going to help. The other thing that's coming to me is actually, because certainly historically we worked all around the world, and typically nowhere near creature comforts or nature to run in or anything like that. In my own head, I tend to have a sort of space in my head that I might go to and find a peace there, or find a resilience, a place to regroup from, so that I can come back able to do what I need to do or give or whatever. So two places, nature and in my head.
Get you with an empty place in your brain. I think that is a rare, beautiful thing of now, a clearing in your own head. Also, the lovely expression, the elastic band ball. You know that lovely quote, "Life is a wicked mess." So I like the fact that it's all twanging around madly, and then you go on the open road, outdoors, and I sympathise, empathise, echo that, because my bike is my freedom too.
Yes,
when I see you running, it'll look like you've forgotten your bike. So
I have to be behind somewhere.
So welcome to your clearing. Where would you like to go? Am I joining you for your metaphorical cleaning in the empty space in your head, or are we going on the open mountainside somewhere?
Let's go into a visual lovely clearing. We've got two beautiful woodlands near us. So it's a clearing in the woodland. We will go to the top of a hill, which is the top point. There's one of those marker stones at the top. So the tree's clear, there's some oaks, and there's a beautiful view over Hereford.
A marker stone, I'm assuming that's one you can sort of take a cheeky wee at to sort of mark your territory.
I try not to, you know.
Well, thank you. By the way, that works beautifully for the idea of me now bringing a metaphorical tree into your clearing. And bless you for doing that, because it's a woodland. When I was speaking to my daughter about this idea, her clearing is a shower, so it felt a bit odd bringing a tree into the shower and also getting into the shower.
With your daughter, yeah.
All of that. But anyway.
So many wrongs, yeah.
So many wrongs, but we're going to put all of that right now. We're here there is an apple tree within our clearing now. And we're going to shake your tree to see which apples fall out. And this is one of the storytelling archetypes within your clearing, which is a storytelling exercise which the apples are going to be formed of, which is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, if you remember, before we spoke, all I've asked you to do in this very spontaneous conversation is take 5 minutes, Paul, to think about 4 things that have shaped you, 3 things that inspire you, 2 things that never fail to grab your attention, and then 1 quirky or unusual fact about you, Mr. Paul Mabberley, that we couldn't possibly know until you tell us. So we're going to shake your tree. Don't panic. You haven't got to download the entire exercise, but they're your apples to conjure, juggle, whatever you'd like to do. So which of those apples, how'd you like them apples, would you like to talk about?
I don't know. Why don't you choose? You lead me. I'm open.
I like that. So tell me about the things that have shaped you.
So many things that have shaped me. And I guess probably beyond, if you go, because I could talk about my parents, I could talk about my brother and sister, I could talk about friends in my life. You know, all of them have a rich impact and influence on me and how I'm shaped. So there's probably a handful of things that I can consciously acknowledge have shaped me. Where shall I start? I'll probably start with the one that had the biggest effect, which was singing. I came to singing when I was about 8 years old. I got dragged along there by some friends to a choir and started singing. And there was a strange sense. I remember the first time I joined, the first time I went to the practice, a strange sense of coming home that came over me, which as an 8-year-old is quite a curious feeling. And it just felt like I was meeting a second family in a strange sort of way. And I thus sung for the next 30 years. And I still do sing, but I've left the choir because I moved recently. I say recently, it's been a couple of years now. But yeah, and so there was a sense of the unity that singing with other people at, you know, in splendid and amazing locations and producing really good quality music. Which has sort of shaped lots of things. It shaped the work to some degree in terms of, you know, literal mechanics of breathing and projection and performance and that kind of stuff. But also probably around confidence and around teamwork and around leadership and all of those kind of things too.
It's like a factory default for you to always seek out a choir wherever you go out in the world, if you like. Because I'm assuming you haven't been in the same choir for 38 years. Or
No, I have.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, same choir. Boy and man.
And now you've moved then, gosh, that must be a real wrench for you because your choir is still off singing, presumably.
Yeah, functioning. It was one of the hardest points of the move. Everything else, you know, you can go back and visit people, you can go back and visit places, but you can't go back and you can go back and sing occasionally, but it's not the same thing. So that's a big thing that shaped me actually.
And have the choir been working remotely, so you have been able to connect in the New World Order by still turning up to sing with them?
Yeah, no, it doesn't work because as we well know, these
yes.
They only allowed one sound at a time. So
you're doing a solo, but not so good for the choral.
Yeah, not so good for the choral thing. Yeah, so there's that, and the chap who runs the choir, he's a very kind man who sort of took me under his wing when I was 8 years old. We're still friends now. He's been a very generous figure in my life. In terms of time and in terms of teachings and in terms of friendship and that type of thing. So those are 2 big influences.
And a life mentor as well, I'm assuming, if he took you under his wing when you were 8 years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
and released your voice. Isn't that a wonderful thing?
Yeah, there's a kind, and it's probably not just released the singing voice, but released the voice, if you know what I
Well,
mean.
I was going to say that because my
Yeah,
compliment to you, which is really sincere, is that you are one of the clearest communicators I've experienced. And I think your voice is clear. And I think that's partly, obviously, now you've described that because of your choral background.
yeah,
But also there's a collaboration in there as well, which is a sort of a clear value that you evoke, because, you know, in terms of team playering and being part of a squad that's there to deliver a sound is part of the communication skills thrust as well, I think.
absolutely. And I guess if we can extend the metaphor, something about singing in large ancient buildings, you tend to get very good echoes, and you can tell how good the sound is by the eighth echo. If it's still in tune. So,
and reciprocity in that as well. Sorry, I'm just loving this. This is great.
Yeah.
So singing is right at the core. And I really feel for you, the wrench that you must have had in moving, I think 200, 300 miles away from where you were last singing, because you're in Herefordshire now, aren't you?
Herefordshire, yes. And I found another choir just as I was about to get in contact with them. We all locked down and they can't sing anymore. So I'll go and hunt them out.
You are going to seek out a new clearing with a new choir in it.
Yeah, I think it would be a shame not to. People have been very generous about my singing voice, and it seems sort of sad to not continue it. So,
and the empty space in your head, by the way, which you previously described, I'm thinking now of the cathedral in the head of Paul Mabberley.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
There's a quip, isn't there, about the emptiness in my head? Yeah.
No, I was going more for the sort of acoustic resonant place in your head where you go to get calm and get innovative and creative.
Yeah. And I guess if we think about influence, and again, I don't know if this sounds a bit ridiculous, but there's something in the work that we do and in the exploration of the subjects that we do, in the psychology of it and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The attitude of it, which we both know is such a huge part of the training work we do, the coaching work that we do, starts to have an impact on you as you take it in. And so a huge influence has been the work that I've done for the past 14 years now. And the learning that you get as you help others and what that gives to you, and the preparedness you need to be able to deliver at the high level you need to, and therefore the repercussions that has on your attitude towards everything, and the genuine sense of growth that's achievable, is a big part of the influence.
Of listening, I'm assuming, because you're really present and able to listen to what the group might need, and then they're giving you feedback and they're giving you stories back, and then I mean, some of my best stories have come about because I landed a story and someone said, "Oh, have you heard this one?" And then you get one that's even more profound back. That sort of yes and build that happens.
Yes. Yeah, and equally, it's recognizing the really natural human traits that we have of getting in our own way, of how our attitude leads our behavior. And so if we've got a terrible attitude, and not in a horrible way, but like just your attitude towards yourself or what you're facing sucks, then that's going to limit your ability to grow, step forward, develop, take the new steps in life. So there's that in there too. And
in the apple tree shaking, that was a beautiful testament to the cathedral that we've explored. Any of those other apples you'd like to tell us about?
What were they? Where were we? I got a bit involved in that. People, So inspiring. So let's go with that. So I think there's something in. I was thinking about, or I talk a lot about what inspires us generally, and I was thinking what inspires me, and I think about the people who have inspired me. In life generally, through sometimes it's clients that you meet and you hear what they've done, or it's the stories that you read.
I'm very sorry, my phone is ringing, which I need the quirks of Zoom. I need to get rid of that and throw the phone away.
It's really good. Hopefully that didn't go out the window. I find, and it resonates with what I was just talking with those people about around the world. But it's inspiration of, in fact, like two things: inspiration of people overcoming their own struggles. I think that's fairly common in human behavior. But one of the things that most inspired me about my wife when I first met her was, certain things that she had gone through and her ability to deal with them. And there's something I think that we all feel in recognizing other people's struggles, because we internalize it and recognize it in ourselves as well. And you see somebody else and you go, wow, you've achieved that from there. And we tend to, I find it's a moment we tend to be generous with ourselves and go, oh, okay, maybe I've done that too. Maybe I could hold myself in that same level of esteem.
There's a lovely journey of struggle to strength. And, you know, you were just this morning talking about resilience, as you said, the idea of, you know, struggle to strength. You know, this is not our first rodeo. We've overcome adversity before, but admiring how others have overcome their struggles gives us fuel to carry on as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I think that's it, isn't it? And that tends to be, in a human sense, where we find inspiration. I find it's in our reflection of ourselves in others, and so it's spending enough time with those people to be able to, or seek them out, so that you can feel that as you need to. I guess the other thing, and I suppose it's part of my background, I studied art and design for 4 years. I was at art college, strange coloured hair, very different hair, long hair, as part of my formal education. And I, inspired by art, inspired by, you know, paintings and sculptures and how people work and that kind of stuff. So I often find, and actually maybe that's a part of my clearing, to go and look at beauty. And I think that art is the place, real high quality, the sort of amazing art that people want to collect and pay millions for sometimes, is the place between where we live and kind of where our spirit exists. It's kind of the place that bridges those two worlds. And, you know, I can remember vividly going to Paris as a student and standing in front of some paintings and just being overwhelmed by their beauty, which doesn't translate when you print it in a book and somebody can't describe it to you, but you can stand in front of these things and you can recognize why they're considered greats. And it's something I find really inspiring in that as well.
So there's the idea of high culture to elevate our spirits and elevate our experience. The cathedrals again, lovely. There's lovely resonance with the cathedral.
We've got a cathedral metaphor happening, haven't we? And I think that's true of arts in general. You know, it's the same with music, and it's why I think music resonates with the soul so greatly. It's because it transcends us, doesn't it? It goes to that other place. We can all find a lot of peace in that.
Beautifully put. Okay, so we're back in the clearing now, and I'm going to talk about what's been your journey to now in the Working Voices clearing that we both share, because I know that you're NLP trained, you're a graphic designer by training and background. There's been a real potpourri of different stimulus to get you to this point where we, as you say, been in it 14 years now and we're still growing within it.
Yeah.
So what's been your journey to now? How did you get here?
Well, I as I said, I studied art and design. It's where I struggle with our general sense of education in this country and broadly the world. I, you know, was channeled into that route. I thought it was what I wanted to do, sounded great, etc. Went and studied it. Had an amazing time in terms of just exploring art and exploring my own voice through art, as it were. And then got a job to it. It became very real and commercial. I guess I have a lot of actor colleagues. I know you're an actor trained. There's a difference between, I guess, I don't know, but I'm assuming becoming an actor and then having to act for money. And it's like being an artist. Not that I don't think I could ever, it's too grand to call myself an artist, but having studied art and understood it a little bit, being able to then do it for money, it lost its shine very quickly for me. Producing it in a commercial one. So I didn't know what I wanted to do. I'd spent 4 years studying. I spent a number of years working, and I was like, this isn't what I want to do. What do I want to do? And I literally, it was a blank slate. I was like, I have no idea. And so I started taking my lunch break. I went out to the bookshop every lunch for a long time and just like, what am I interested in? And I always found myself in psychology and self-help. It was those two areas. It was stuff we could learn about ourselves, and became an avid student of these things. And then put the intention out to the universe, if you believe that hippie stuff, and said, I don't know what it is, but it's something in this realm. And then had an introduction to Nick Smallman at Working Voices, having done some other stuff. I'm missing a little bit of the journey out there. I'd gone and done some teaching at university and that sort of thing. And had an opportunity. He when the company was very small and we liked the cut of each other's jib, as it were, he was generous enough to say, you know, come on board and let me show you how. And so I grabbed the opportunity with both hands. I could see it was a great opportunity. I could see that the Working Voices was a stunning company. I could see that Nick Small was a generous man, and got involved with that. And so in my own pursuit of interest with that, it was about being able to help people to start with deal with the same fears I'd had with public speaking. That was a real hindrance to me to start with, and that was where the company started, primarily teaching. To then pursue, well, what are the other things from that then? What is the other stuff that gets in our way, and what's some of the deeper stuff? And so that's partly where NLP goes. It's looking at how we can change our internal world to open up possibilities. And that work in itself has led me to other therapies is too strong a word, but strategies, let's say, that help us deal with. So
it's like
you'll know that
the bookshelf that I heard you talk about, the metaphorical bookshelf, is just an expanding vista of different possibilities.
Yeah, and there's so much wisdom in these books. And the trouble is, I find, and I think there's a blog about me talking about this somewhere online, that people kind of think they should read a book and then that's the solution. It's a little bit like the lazy attitude of I'll attend the course and then I'll have the tools. And of course it's not. It's you have to read it, understand it, and then try and do something with it. Yeah, and right. That's as I'm sure you and a lot of people do, we find the beauty and the gold nuggets in these books and in this work. And then we think, how do I now translate that into something that's useful to help somebody else with a skill set, to help them move forward and live the life of no barriers that everybody wants to live.
I read something just a couple of days ago about how we should aspire to be rich in the things we love. So we're already rich if we're in pursuance of things that feed us, fuel us. So it's not just monetary stuff, it's actually soul richness.
Yeah. And actually, I was just talking about that, about noticing the small things. And I don't know, maybe it's an old thing. Maybe as we get older, we do that more. But it's paying more attention to the simple things. We've got swallows nesting in our garage. They're crapping all over the place. It's a pain, but it's beautiful to have seen them nest and then produce their young. And now the young are flying and they're gathering because they're due to go off in about a month or so. It's beginning of August here now. Just for anybody watching this in the future is the reason I'm saying that. It's August everywhere. But yeah, it's just there's a simple thing in noticing them and the fact that they've nested and birthed and now they're going to fly to Africa. And it's just to go out each day and see them fluttering around is a wonderful, simple, beautiful little thing.
You're very, very lucky. You are lucky to have swallows. We've had seagulls, which I admire. They're very robust, but my God, they're noisy. Will you please shut up?
I left the seagulls behind where we used to live. Yeah.
In fact, one of my most profound experiences of lockdown was actually the tragedy, but the beautiful tragedy of a fledgling bird that had fallen out of a nest. And it was hopping about the garden, and I think the neighbour's cat snaffled the parent. And I ended up actually holding this fledgling bird for about an hour and a half because I couldn't help it. We tried and tried, and it kept hopping about. And I kept trying to return it to nature because I thought I don't want to freak it out. But there was a really poignant moment where it actually hopped back out and landed on my foot as if it was saying, I need you to hold me. And it was the most extraordinary, heart-wrenching, it reminded me of a kid when a guinea pig died in my hands. I haven't gone around my life killing things, but holding something, nurturing it as you guide it is, anyway, it was just an extraordinarily profound experience of my presence being required. So the idea of appreciating nature again, which is a common thread that you're talking about, swallows in your garage, to come back to.
I think trying to appreciate simplicity, I think is the thread there, because we find I never knew this, but birds kick their young out of their nest. If they don't look strong enough, they just boot them out and let them die. And we keep finding them. The kids are like, there's another one.
Oh, so maybe the bird that I saw was sort of little git that got hoofed out.
They sometimes do. They do. They go, you're the weak one. You won't survive. I'll kick you out now and save feeding you. Yeah. Brutal.
Yeah, we're not at all recommending we do that with our own families.
No, I'm wondering where the metaphor for that is. But anyway.
So coming back to something you beautifully said as a segue for us about 3 paragraphs ago, you talked about alchemy and gold. And I thank you for that. So we're going to talk about alchemy and gold now. When you're really in your sweet spot of being the awesome coach, facilitator, and generous human being you're being in that zone, what's the alchemy that you like to bring?
Actually, I'm going to return the favour to you for a moment, Chris, because one of the things you've always said, and I think you said at the beginning of this call, is how you find my ability to be able to communicate with clarity something that you admire. And if I think about that, and there's lots of things you like to think you bring, and there's lots of things you like to think you give, and there's no one set phrase that you can ever use because everybody's a little bit different. But if I were to think of what's one thing I hope I can bring to people, it would be that sense of clarity and simplicity. As in to shake through all the noise, because we all carry so much noise and there's so much expectation, and people working in large organizations, there's so much that's happening there, that if we can get through to the actual nubbin that's going to...
Great word, nubbin.
I found a place to say the word nubbin on this call. If you can get a nubbin in there and you can tweak something, sometimes it's just the most simple observation the simple adjustment, bringing clarity to somebody about their thinking, about their behavior, about a skill that they can just do that. And you suddenly can see people release, or you can see people manage to speak in a different way. You can help people find clarity in a situation they're puzzling over. And so a big part of I think it's my own journey, but it's where I'm able to help others, is about finding clarity in moments of confusion. And so I'm a real stickler for sort of, if you like, I don't know, am I shaking a tree? Am I ruffling a hair? I don't know, but it's that sort of thing to go, let's comb it out and let's find the sense in this rather than the confusing. We go back to our rubber band ball again. So my alchemy, I would hope that I bring is clarity, it's simplicity, so that people can find their path.
Beautifully put. It makes me think of that lovely expression of agitate your thinking in order to sort of shake things out. So you don't disturb people, but you get them to just shake it up. So I love that image, and how we thrive on and deserve clarity. And it makes everything so much simpler if we're clear. Beautifully put.
And I think it's our role as coaches, isn't it? It's the reflecting the mirror and saying, here's the story you're telling me. I'm not buying it. So let's work out the sense in it. Yeah.
And at this point, it's time to award you with a metaphorical cake in the clearing for blessing us with your time and effort and energy to be here. So the cake is a metaphor for you where I'm now going to invite you to put a cherry on the cake. What's the last thing you might like to leave us with? This could be your favorite inspirational quote. It could be, it's deliberately open to interpretation. It could be, what do you want your legacy to be? How do you want to be remembered? This is your cherry on the cake moment. No pressure, but how would you like to answer that?
Can I have 5 minutes? I don't know. I'm not clear on my legacy enough yet. I think there's a lot of journey for me still, as a person and as a professional, etc. Beyond what I've said already. So if there's a quote, I don't know, maybe what's in my head, if I go with, I'm going to rip off the genius thinking of somebody else, and something that I resonated with me a lot, and something that I think resonates with a lot of people quite often, is the sense that your past doesn't equal your future. How you've existed, who you've been, the story that you have, the difficulties, the struggles, all that kind of stuff, however good or bad it's been, doesn't necessarily mean that what is going to come is that thing. And I think it opens the door beautifully for us to be able to decide on what we want our future to be. And I think sometimes we're too caught up in what happened last time, or what happened before, or that thing that happened to me once. And I think that if we can open the door to recognize that script hasn't been written yet, we can choose to write that on a clean page whenever we want to. Maybe that's something I'll leave you on.
The story continues to be continued. Paul Mabberley, it's been a complete and utter joy having you on a GLT with me, CG, a good listening to with me, Chris Grimes. And thank you sincerely for taking the time to come along to the clearing. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much.
See you soon.